Good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. This is BRN-AM for Wednesday, July 25th, 2024. And our top story today, what solo agers should know when planning for the future. And joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Sharona Hoffman is with the Case Western Reserve School of Law. She's also the author of Aging with a Plan. Sharona, so great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
My pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
Absolutely. And look, I think America is aging. All of us are, we're naturally aging, but America population is aging. And we talk a lot, we hear a lot in the mainstream press about aging in place, but there's also a category of solo agers. Before we get into the prescription, what is a solo ager?
It's someone that is going to age without a lot of support. So someone who doesn't have children, for example, or may not even have a partner. Someone has to worry about who's going to take care of me because there aren't natural unpaid caregivers that are going to jump on the task.
And how big of a population? I know you're not the Census Department, but when you look at the 330 million of us here in the United States, how big of a population is this?
This is a fairly big population. I think 15% of women now or something like that don't have children. A lot of people have children that live far away that are not going to be able to be that involved, or children with disabilities that they take care of. You never know if your spouse is going to outlive you or not. So a lot of people really have to plan for maybe not having a lot of natural support as they get older.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, as you were talking, I'm thinking about my own situation. I grew up in Baltimore. My parents lived there. My wife grew up in Greensboro. We live in Charlotte, not too far, but not completely close. It's still 90 minutes. We're in this category. You talked about planning. Let's start with some basics. What are the things that myself and my wife Jody need to start thinking about as we start aging and thinking about how we're going to take care of ourselves?
Right. This is close to my heart as well because I don't have children, and my husband actually has Parkinson's disease. So we think a lot about this topic. So you want to make sure that you have your legal documents in place, and that your loved ones have legal documents. So advance directives that talk about what your preferences might be for medical care. Do you want to emphasize comfort care or very aggressive care? Documents that appoint a decision maker for a power of attorney for healthcare and for property, because somebody is going to have to write checks and manage your finances. You want to make sure that you have as much money as possible, because getting support is very expensive. Long-term care is astonishingly expensive, and health insurance does not cover that. So saving for retirement from a very early age is very important. And the advice is that if you have to choose between saving for retirement and saving for loved ones' college and graduate educations, you have to opt for saving for retirement, because there are loan programs for people who are going to school, even loan forgiveness programs. There is no loan program or loan forgiveness for retirement. So
Yeah,
you need to think about finances. You need to think about living arrangements. So you mentioned aging in place. A lot of people want that, but your home can be unsafe because there are stairs or bathrooms that are not accessible. And you can become very lonely because your friends can't visit you. You have mobility issues, or you can't drive anymore. And loneliness and social isolation are a huge problem in America and have very adverse implications for both mental and physical health. So you might actually want to be in some kind of retirement community, in independent living, but in a place where you're going to have opportunities to socialize and interact with others and remain active.
Yeah, and you bring up a lot of important information. When do you start having this conversation? As I mentioned, I'm in my early 50s. Do you have it when you're in your 40s? If you're not married, you begin to plan earlier? I would imagine that sooner rather than later is great, but you also don't want to be a buzzkill at age, I always thought about, because I was from the retirement industry, I always thought about retirement from the time I was like 22 years old because I was in the industry, but most people are not thinking about their retirement. They're thinking about life. So when's a good rule of thumb to start the planning, or is it earlier before rather than later?
I think some things you should definitely do early. Like if your employer has a 401k plan or some retirement plan, it's easy to think, I don't want to contribute to that. I'd rather travel or buy a really fancy car. But you should absolutely take advantage of that from the time you start working. It saves you taxes and it starts building a nest egg, which will come in handy. It's also important to have those legal documents as early as possible because God forbid something can happen to you. You can be involved in, be a victim of a shooting or a car accident, and you might not want your parents to be the decision maker. You might want your partner to be the decision maker or a sibling to be the decision maker. And having those documents is invaluable. And there are a lot of cases, a lot of litigation about situations where those documents were not available. And there were huge fights within the family about who should make decisions and what the patient might have preferred. So you need to think about that.
Yeah. Well, Sharona, I need to take a very quick break. We come back, we're going to talk more about solo aging, preparing, and a lot more. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the first lifestyle and wellness network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device. Welcome back. We're joined this morning by Sharona Hoffman of Case Western Reserve School of Law, and she's also the author of Aging with a Plan. Sharona, thanks so much for staying with us this morning.
My pleasure. I'm eager to get going.
Yeah, and we talked about this in the intro. You put a lot of the things that we're talking about. If people want more information, they can always purchase your book, go to your website, that you have a plethora of information. I want to ask you, I'm going to take a step back because you mentioned long-term care and it's something that I and my wife have looked at. You mentioned a lot of services or maybe finding a community that you may want to live in. Are we prepared as a country at the state, local, federal level for all of for our aging population? Because we're now producing less children than we are aging adults.
Yeah, that's a very big problem. The demographics are certainly worrisome. I don't think we're doing nearly enough because you always have to worry about the possibility of dementia in addition to physical frailty. A lot of people need long-term care help. They need to go to a nursing home or assisted living or have an aide come to the home to provide care. And that is enormously expensive. It is not covered by health insurance. And it's a huge problem for a lot of people. We also have shortages in supply of people who can serve as caregivers. There is the possibility of buying long-term care insurance. You want to do that earlier rather than later, because if you have a diagnosis such as Parkinson's disease, as my husband has, you're no longer eligible for long-term care insurance. But you really need good advice from a financial advisor because the premiums are very high. Some of the products have a lot of other limitations and problems, and you want to make sure that it's a good fit for you and your financial situation. There are some hybrid products that are a combination of long-term care insurance and life insurance or annuities, and that's worth looking into if you have some money to spend on that.
Yeah, and we're talking today about this, and there's ill preparedness by, it sounds like, and I want to put words in your mouth, but paraphrasing, we're not as prepared as we should be at the state, local, and federal level. But I have to imagine that a lot of people aren't prepared for these types of discussions. Either they're not having them, or they're not even aware, Sharona, that they need to do this. So it sounds like there needs to be a lot more education to reach as many people as possible, so that they're putting their thoughts down. They're doing the advanced directives. They're figuring out an inheritance or an estate plan. They're figuring out what their wishes are.
Absolutely. It's not a topic that's easy to talk about or very pleasant to talk about, and most people don't do it. I also have heard of cases where children have tried to approach their parents about this, and the parents get angry and say, "Oh, you're trying to get your hands on my money," or "It's none of your business. We're private and autonomous." And that is really the wrong approach, because these conversations are so important. There actually are some companies that are starting to produce starter kits for people who want to try to have these conversations, and they provide guidance, have a nice dinner, have the family over, and tell them that you're also going to have a serious conversation. And it might be worth looking into these online to get some guidance. Another extremely difficult topic is driving, which a lot of elderly people continue to do. And that's not necessarily the right decision either. And that's another very difficult topic for family members to have to grapple with.
Yeah, you bring up, what I heard you say. We all want to be independent. There's no one that I know that doesn't want to be, that wants to be dependent on somebody else. It's about that personal independence, that financial independence, but that comes at you have to plan for that. And I think, Sharona, it's probably, you mentioned these starter kits. It's knowing where to start. It's knowing, because it's like anything else. If I have 31 things to choose from, it's hard for me to pick the one I really need. But if I had a place to start with step 1, 2, 10, 20, that's a roadmap. That's what people really probably need to get started.
Yes, and it's definitely worth doing some research online. AARP has some good guidance that they offer if you're thinking about the driving issue. The AAA has a lot of information on its website that can really help you get started with that conversation and avoid some of the mistakes that were made, certainly in my family.
Well, life's a learned experience, Sharona, and we're thankful that you came on this morning to share your experience, your knowledge. Look, we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.
That wraps up this episode of BRNAM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to? Drop us a line, and don't forget, for all the latest curated news in lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more, all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives, check out our latest content? Then visit our website. Hey, we're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRN AM. We'll have a very special guest and another important topic. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe. Keep on saving. Don't forget, roll with the changes. Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the first lifestyle and wellness network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.